So, biogeochemical cycles. Everything that ever, all of the matter that ever existed on Earth is still here, right? So that's basically what we're saying. We say it doesn't go anywhere, it just changes form. And I've already been talking a lot about the carbon cycle, right? Because when we talk, in order to talk about photosynthesis and cellular respiration, we're talking about carbon dioxide and how it goes from the air into me, out of me, back into the air. And that's part, we'll talk, there's more to it than that. That's part of the carbon cycle. Now, in general, though, we as a result, we say you can pick any number of different things, and we're going to pick some things. You can pick any number of different elements, and you can look at the cycle associated with them. And we had said that we have these stores or reservoirs, which are where carbon or where an element happens to be. And so when we were talking about carbon, we had said, well, it can be out there in the atmosphere. It can be in me, in life. So it could be in me or the leaves or whatever. Where else can it be? It can be in the ground as oil, right? Or in rock as calcium carbonate, limestone. So this is what we're talking about. And so we have these stores, these reservoirs, and then we have flows, which is the movements between the reservoirs. And we had said, we'd made a connection with global warming, right? We had said that in the carbon cycle, what happens is we have this carbon that has been circling around for millions, thousands of years, right? From life to the atmosphere, back into life, and now we've been pulling fossil fuels out of the ground, and carbon that was unavailable, that was hidden away for millions of years, is now in that cycle, in the carbon that's being cycled around. And global warming, the reason there is no debate about global warming. The people on the news or politicians might suggest that there is a debate. There is no debate. Why? Because we know the chemistry of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide absorbs sunlight energy. And as we add more CO2 to the CO2 that is cycling between life and the atmosphere, it's going to, and we see it is raising global temperature. It's not debated. So anyway, so we have these movements, these flows between the reservoirs and the different reservoirs. It's moving from here to there, everywhere. John Muir is quoted, it's from your slide here. It says that when one tugs at a single thing in nature, he finds it attached to the rest of the world. That's a good quote. But there was a better quote. And I have a little link there, and I hope it still works. I'll have to look to see. And it says, Hush Puppy. There was a great movie. It's the most unbelievable story ever, if you ask me, or one of them. There was a group of kids, like you guys, your age, who were in college, and they were learning to be filmmakers. And so they created their own little company when they were in college. And it ended up, where they were in college, they had some racquetball courts that nobody was using. That we went through a period of time where everybody played racquetball. I used to play. I hadn't played in years. Anyway, it's a fun game. But anyway, there was a racquetball court that they rented as their production studio, and they made this little claymation film. And they won all kinds of awards for this little, funny little sort of animated film. Because of that, they got some funding to make a feature film, Beast of the Southern Wild. And they were so low budget that they rented a busted down gas station, that not for gas, but as a studio. And they had a patch of ground out behind it in Louisiana. And they made this film about ecology and global warming. And there was this character in it, the cutest little girl you ever saw. Her name was Hush Puppy. And she was brilliant. Every time she spoke, she had such wisdom. She was a 5-year-old. This little 5-year-old girl was spouting such wisdom. I loved it. And so she at one point says that something about if the world, one thing in the world goes bust, everything else in the world goes bust, or something like that. And it was, what it's meaning is what John Muir said: when one tugs at a single thing in nature, he finds it attached to the rest of the world. And that was what Hush Puppy was saying. And it's absolutely fantastic film, made without even Screen Actor Guild actors. There were no professional actors. It ended up being nominated for Best Picture. It didn't win that, but it did win many Academy Awards. These young kids. The best director, and I can't remember if Hush Puppy won or she was nominated. But it was brilliant. It was the brilliant writing, and I have to go on and elaborate just a little bit more. So this little 5-year-old, it was a couple of years, or a year later, I guess, maybe 2 years since they made the film. They made it, they got it released, and it got critical acclaim. And then Academy Awards came along and they were interviewing him. So she was a 7-year-old. I was so disappointed. She's not brilliant. She's a 7-year-old. The writers that told her what to say were brilliant. Yeah, but she's still a cute little girl. Okay, so everything in the world is interconnected. And so we have all of these cycles. And I've already talked a good bit about the carbon cycle, but we're going to talk about the hydrologic cycle, water. We all know about it, and we all know kind of about its movements, right? So if we said, where do you find it? These are these stores, right? So I'd said, okay, are these reservoirs? I said, well, the ocean. Yeah, duh. Lakes, rivers, streams. Yeah, of course. Where else? Atmosphere. So basically, what happens? The water, the heat hits the water. It evaporates. It goes up into the sky, and it moves across the land as clouds, and then it gets cool and it falls as rain. And so this is some of the flows. But there are other places where you have water, right? Where else? Aquifers, underground. So when that water hits the ground, it percolates through the soil down into the aquifer. Some of you might have a well. If I know up around Butler, a lot of people have wells. When I lived up in that area, I had a well. And so I was tapped into the aquifer, and it isn't like a lake down there. It's a porous rock layer that has water in it that gets replenished through percolation of the rain, that comes down through the soil. Where else? What about you? What about me? We're 70% water. So we are also a reservoir for water. Where else? What did I say about those primary producers? I'd said, what happens with photosynthesis? You get CO2 from the atmosphere and combine it with water from where? Oh, from the roots of the plant. So water comes up from the soil into the plant, and when it's moving through the plant, some of it gets evaporated out of the top of the plant, And this is a process called transpiration. So water is captured by the plants. It moves through the plants. You see, it's very complicated. Did you know that every molecule of water that ever existed on Earth is still here on Earth? Another place where water is. Glaciers, polar ice cap. Again, it's frozen. And so sometimes, so we have all of these water in all of these different places. And so the hydrologic cycle is the location where we have the different pools or masses of water, plus then we have the flows between these, and that's what makes up the water cycle. So the water cycle. And so we have, I was trying to see if I had anything else I wanted to say about it. Not really. So we have evaporation. Yeah, so evaporation. Yeah, so we have all of these different ways that the water is moving. We have a video there. I want you to look at it. It's on YouTube, and it talks about all of this stuff that I have. So make sure you look at it too. Anything that I tell you to look at, you could see on the test, right? And so we have videos connected with each of these different cycles. Okay, so I'm trying to think if I want to do one more cycle or if I'm going to stop right here. Maybe we'll leave the rest of these cycles for next time. What do you think? Yeah, it's okay. So later on, the next lecture, I'll talk about the rest of the cycles and the latter part of chapter 2 here. All right, you guys have a good day.